Welcome, everybody, to one more episode of Away from the Keyboards, the show that keeps your CVs always up to date so that you don't get hacked by Chinese hackers. My guest today is CiberJohn. I met CiberJohn talking in LinkedIn. I've been seeing his posts and his content all over there, and it has been amazing. So I decided I had to have a chat with him. And of course, we are both Portuguese, so the curiosity even got the best of me. But enough babbling from my side. Without further ado, CiberJohn, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure and an honor, even. And yeah, funny coincidences, and the world is very small because we are not just from the same country, we are actually from the same neighborhood. So
Indeed.
most likely we could see each other's windows on our flat block. So, and that is the fun fact. Yeah, and it was very, very, very good to get the invite. And here I am today, and let's have a chat about what you want.
Awesome. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I think we both moved at the same amount of time, like I
The
think
same
around the
time.
same time out of
Yeah.
Portugal.
Yeah.
So there is a
Yeah.
chance that we, at least in grocery shops, we probably bump shoulders sometime.
Likely.
Cool. So the curiosity always starts with the same question in this show: is what is your origin story? How did you end up here? Like, how did you get involved into this world of cyber content creation and all of it? So super curious.
So obviously, I'm coming from a generation where my first computer was a ZX Spectrum 16K back in the 80s. And then I had the evolution to the 48K 128. I was always very curious about how that stuff worked. So I wrote a few basic programs. At the time, obviously, there was no internet, so we would get magazines with basic programs to have the stuff we wanted, like a clock, like making music. And the music, it's the segue for my next platform, which was the Commodore Amiga. So 90s, during early 90s, mid 90s, I was stuck with the Amiga 500 and 2000 because I am also a DJ, and CiberJohn has been coming with me not only on the cyber world but also on the dance scene, the electronic music dance scene. So I'm from that old school. I came to my first PC was rather late, was mid 90s, because I was stuck in the Commodore universe and just making music and playing games, etc. But always also being the tech support for my friends and family at the time. Then obviously there's the real origin of my nickname. It's from the movie The Net with Sandra Bullock. So there was this guy there called Cyber Bob, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be CiberJohn, and that's it. And cyber with an I, not with a Y. And that stuck until nowadays. I was perhaps very fortunate because I got an early internet connection, dial-up, 56K, if my memory is not tricking me. And I started to join some BBSs, etc. And then obviously the internet exploded to something more how we know it today. I was involved in the creation of PTNet, the old IRC network in Portugal. And then I was hovering between studying. Funny enough, my degree is in geography, completely unrelated. And DJing, working. I started to work for a big Portuguese telecoms company quite early as well. So technology was always my thing. Even the DJing is because of the buttons and the colors and what you can do. But it's most of it comes from there. I jumped late 90s. I was hosting websites, so I had a few Linux servers at the time. I had a leased line at my parents' house, so it was very expensive. 512k kilobits per second leased line, but it was a fortune. But I had about 5 servers. And then I moved those servers to an ISP. I don't think it exists anymore, which was called Esoterica, which was part of Clarinet, and before that Via Networks. And I started to grow my colocation full footprint with a few servers, etc. But then that winded down a bit, and I started to teach multimedia. So I was one of the first Portuguese instructors in advanced multimedia. You know, those days with Flash and Lingo, etc., and a lot of things. I moved away from that years ago, and I stuck with the networks and systems administration and later security and cybersecurity. So still in Portugal, I jumped to leadership, so starting to supervise teams and then to lead teams, engineering teams, etc. But I never lost track of getting my hands dirty. That is something I need to do, okay? And now the leap, I came to the UK, same year you came, so about 10 years ago. Same year you came to the Netherlands, so different countries.
Exactly.
The coincidence is no longer, as well, we are with the internet and these communications. So being on the ISPs, it was all about networking, high demanding environments. You know, things need to be up, SLAs of 60 seconds in sometimes, crazy things like that. But it was perhaps my biggest school in technology, because you need to be very agile, and not agile the framework, but agile in thinking in your feet and on your feet, and things like that. And of course, being creative to fix problems until a final remediation was available. And that was a huge school. I then started with a friend a very small MSP in Portugal. Our focus was small hotel units, and people didn't speak about public cloud at the time, and I started to replace under the desk servers with VPSs. Funny enough, in a company which is in the Netherlands, TransIP. So yeah, we started to host VPSs for customers and replacing, servers. They had their traditional Windows servers in a forgotten room, and problems, and setting up VPNs and having people working from home, etc. But as you know, the calling to get to a bigger market and to get literally better opportunities was what drove me to move away from Portugal with the family, and we came to the UK. In the UK, I've been working, I started as a Linux lead engineer, was my first official job here. And then I moved on. I went to infrastructure manager for a big business intelligence / fintech company, moved to head of core services, always not losing perspective of tech. And it was that big company where I gained perhaps the most awareness around cybersecurity, okay? Because they do have a very strong information security and SecOps teams, and it's a big part of their operation. So I did learn a lot, and best practices, etc. I had a word to say, helping with, ISO 27001s, etc. Things like that. So then I got where I am today. I had a few hits and misses with other companies, but also as senior manager. But I decided to come back to the company I am now, which is for me the perfect balance between being a senior manager, having a word to say in some parts of the strategy, and still being the technician and being the escalation point, etc. And I was primarily hired because of my cybersecurity performance in the interview. So, and that was when the main focus became security. Obviously, I'm talking about an organization which is part of a group of organizations. So the business unit I am is a relatively small business unit, although we are part of a big multinational group. But the cybersecurity was pretty much built from scratch by myself. So changing mentalities, implementing some controls that were inexistent, moving to more modern frameworks and ways of doing. All of those things we can delve a bit longer. And that's what triggered me to do contents, because I did teach at the uni. I was a professional instructor as well. The government, IEFP, you know what I'm on about.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also as an amateur astronomer, I was used to give some lectures. So the communication bit, I was missing that in my life. And I decided, okay, I need to find a platform. And that platform, thank you, AI, I was replaced, is nowadays, as you know, when you get to know me, or we got to this contact through LinkedIn. Okay. And it was a very random thing. I was posting content normally, etc. And then I started to, let me create kind of an alter ego. I'll call it my digital older brother. I don't have a name for that character, but it's someone made with Nano Banana Pro, and it's kind of based in my image, bit older. But then the workstation is extremely geeky, so the pictures, and people can go to my LinkedIn profile and can see the pictures as well. And funny enough, that started to trigger a lot of visualizations. Okay. I'm like, okay, so there's something here. So I kept refining that character. I was hosting my own blog on firstly WordPress and then Ghost, and then I decided, now let me move to Medium. Okay. And although I have a lot of drafts, I don't have much stories published, but I will increase that output in that platform. And I started to get interesting results in the reads, even considering I publish everything free. I don't want to be gated by the paywall they have for most of the premium subscribers. Although I'm a premium subscriber and I like to read. And that kind of was like, okay, so there's something to do here. And of course, as the next person in technology, one of our main platforms to consume knowledge ends up being YouTube, right? And on YouTube, I was following multiple, from John Saville to Network Check on the technology arena. And I stumbled on a lady called Julie McCoy. And honestly, I was watching the first videos and I didn't realize it was AI generated. And this was over a year ago, okay? And I'm like, okay, this is very good, etc. But then I started to notice some quirks, certain repetition of movements. And what's it? So I dug about that lady. And she's also a Star Trek fan, as I am. And she had an article posted on her own website how she built her digital twin. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is exactly what I want. Yeah. I like to talk, I like to communicate. But one thing I'm very aware I lack of is when I start speaking, I can't shut up. Okay. That's how I am. And even if you write your script and you try to follow your script, kind of drift away and then you have to come back. It's like 20-minute lecture, it's more like 2 hours. So you know how it goes. So it was a no-brainer. I started to test. I created my digital twin silently, which was based on a picture of myself sitting in this office, looking at this camera, and then just used Nano Banana Pro to change the background. With some tweaking, I actually had someone, which is a very dear person to me. He is a former colleague that noticed a mistake in one of the posters I have on my digital twin, which was Return of the Jedi film poster with, Star Trek. Oh, it was a
I
joke.
saw that post.
It wasn't Rob. I didn't notice. Thank you for that. So, I corrected that, and every now and then the t-shirts are, those are t-shirts I really have. Okay. But I try to stay loyal to my own image. So I have a lot of geek and fun t-shirts. Some are safe for work environments, others are safe, so I don't use them in public, or at least in environments like this. And then you have a myriad of things to do video. I started to experiment with my own server, getting open source models, etc. But it was painfully slow, and I did bite the bullet and went with AGen. It's a no-brainer. Okay, so I'm not talking about org stuff specifically. I'm not talking secrets. I don't mind if my image is used for training, because we are out there. So it is being used for sure. So and my setup is quite simple. I use mainly for copywriting. Obviously, I write the stuff. I do in the investigation, and I go and look and check, and I compile the links, etc. And I write, but then I use Claude Code. Okay. So I am very I encourage a lot of people to use CLIs for AI nowadays, okay? Because you can chain agents, you can create multiple personas, the contexts are far more bigger, stuff like that. So I use Claude Code to copyright my stuff, okay? How I do it is I have the folder with the project, I define the personas, I feed in my story, what I want to publish, and then I create prompts. Sometimes I take 10-15 minutes writing a prompt. And I write very comprehensive prompts where I explain, you will revise this, being, a copyright, and then you will submit this to another agent, which is an editor. And then once everyone's happy, you will consult a guru in social media, and then you need to submit it back to the editor. And then when everything is fire up 2 agents, to peer review each other's and fact check something I might have missed. So you create a chain of. So what happens here is you wrote the story, you invest 10-15 minutes thinking of a prompt and writing it. It's a very long prompt. And then you go away, have dinner with your family, go for a walk with the dog, etc. Because, you can see in the CLI window the agents ping-ponging to each other, okay? I have some articles that are very short to read. Funny enough, they take a long time to be curated or refined, which is interesting. Depends a lot on the context and the topic, and longer articles. So it's obviously this is norm. This is not, yeah. So, but it's fun facts around this. But the key point is you are in control. You did write the story. You did do the research, but you kind of refined that. So you are augmenting your potential, right? So once this is done, you then hire a marketing team, right? And you hire a script writer. And what I do once this is done and refined, I will not bore people with details, but I call more personas. I write another prompt, which will generate the LinkedIn post, the strategy for the post, and the script for the video, with B-roll or without B-roll. Most of the stuff you saw, it's without B-roll, because I'm betting more on the short spanning of otherwise, because even the stats say some videos are not watched entirely by most of the people, which is expectable.
Mm-hmm.
So once you have all of this, obviously revise, but it's the same thing again. Cloud code, prompt, go away. Sometimes what happens is you forget to put in YOLO mode for that folder. So you go away, you have a come back home and are asking me for permission to write a file. Great, yes. Go and come back again. And this is the magic sauce of obviously behind all of this is your creativity, your ideas. There's a lot of small refinements you do and you ask, I don't like this tone. Pick up this section and, revise this. And I always try to slot. There's someone I really like a lot as a communicator, which is Neil deGrasse Tyson. Obviously, as an amateur astronomer, I am a huge fan of Carl Sagan and obviously Neil deGrasse Tyson as well. So I do try sometimes to work with the agents to add a pinch of that magic salt he has speaking, not copying his style, but
Mm-hmm.
some tricks, some things that click your brain and you get there. And yeah, that's it. So, and again, I never shut up, so you can interrupt me for any follow-up questions.
I have a lot of follow-ups. I've been taking a couple of notes as you were speaking because there is a couple of interesting things that you touch upon that I want to go. But one of the things that I find interesting is the fact that is an AI that ends up as like your digital twin. It doesn't really matter, and that's why people resonate, because in the end you're the one creating the content, and that I think it's the real important part, because people resonate that is not just like some AI slop that went in through like an ETL machine of read the newspapers and create. No, that there is some effort in that script, and that's why people I see like in the posts everyone engages a little bit with it, even the friend that found out the problem in the poster. That was quite fun.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Awesome. I wanted to touch upon one of the things that you talked about during your journey, and I think it's a curious thing to talk, especially in 2026, because you were playing with Linux servers when Linux was painful to work with, right?
True. Nowadays, there's a lot of support, even before AI chats. Even before ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever, people are being more smart around prompts to sort problems. I see that in the engineering team I'm managing presently. We obviously have official AIs that we use at work, and it's a matter of coaching them, and it really augments you. But yes, back to your question. It was painful. installing was not straightforward. There's an episode, it never left my mind. So, for example, today, if you want to install, I don't know, postfix or QMail, well, nobody wants to install QMail anymore, but you literally, package manager, my go-to distribution is Ubuntu server, the LTS versions, but I'm comfortable on Red Hat derivatives, etc. So there's no strange distros for me nowadays. And literally, you install something with package manager, and then you tweak the configuration file. Back in those days, configuring a simple Apache server was like trial and error. Yeah. So sysadmins today, especially the ones that are starting their careers now, they have a lot more eased life on this aspect, which I think enables them to be the superstars. Many, if not most of them, are, because it's amazing to see a young engineer, the agility in their minds and the way they can do things, and they don't have to spend time learning how can I compile etc. So they gain that bandwidth in their minds to actually solve the business problems or the problems they are trying to solve, right? So hats off to the evolution. I still the corporation I work, the main flavor of OS for shipping the flagship product is Linux, Ubuntu or Red Hat Enterprise Linux. That's the official ones. And at home, I'm talking with you on a Linux Mint laptop. Okay, I was a MacBook person. I have nothing against Windows, on the contrary, the Windows machine. I'm comfortable on any operating system. You have to, so there's things on Mint I don't do that I can do on Windows. You know, a lot of things. But nowadays, the operating system is less visible, if that makes sense. Okay, we live online, right? So, for example, sometimes people argue with me, oh, you're using a Linux machine. How do you do with Microsoft Teams and the Office suite, etc.? Well, PWAs, Progressive Web Applications. Simple as, right? So, which is a web wrapper, so a web page effectively with a service, editing a doc, having a Teams call, you name it, dealing with Microsoft Copilot. Everything can be doable via web, obviously, nowadays, or most of the things.
That was one of the points that I wanted to check also with CiberJohn is macOS, Windows, and Linux. Which ones do you use and which ones do you set up? So you already touched upon the ones that you use. So how do you set them up to get the best out of them?
Okay, so very simple. I used to be a MacBook person. My last MacBook was an Intel one from 2020. And I remember when I bought it in 2021, it was a nightmare to find an Intel one because I was using VirtualBox a lot to create OVAs, etc. Mm-hmm. So after that, that MacBook was my to-go machine for 5 years. I don't want to lie to you. I cannot remember or take 3.5, 4 years. Yeah, I did sell it. It was in pristine condition. It was a shame selling. My wife and my kids, they all have MacBooks. That's the thing to go. End of story. Just works. You know what I mean? And I bought this beefy laptop, a Linux laptop with 64 gigs of RAM, an GPU. At the time was very expensive. So, because I was starting to play with local LLMs as well. Okay. So that's why Linux and a powerful machine, and it's my personal machine. So my setup is this Linux laptop here. Downstairs in the living room, I have an old Vostro 15-inch with an i3, which I upgraded the NVMe and the RAM, and it's my machine to read stuff, sometimes publish some stories, and it's also Linux Mint. And then I have the work laptop. The work is Corp. Android enrolled, so no brainer. Okay, so it's plain Corp, proper policies in place, etc. And how do I set up them? So obviously on a Linux machine, you have kind of trying to be a bit you have a sudo user, so if something nasty tries to install or something like that, you get prompted at least that. On a Windows box, if it is a Windows box for a family member or something like that, my inclination is always, you'll have your user, but then you have a separate user if you need to elevate, to install something or whatnot, because just a precaution. And on the Mac, well, you have one, so the only thing I do have common in all of the three platforms is an ICDR. Okay. I know people say Linux doesn't need an EDR, aka antivirus. Yeah, you don't need one until you do. Right? So I passed the advertisement. I use Bitdefender, Corp and personally. Okay, so it just works, and that's it. That's my what is my favorite. All of them. If I could now, would I buy a MacBook? Yes, definitely. Especially the new generations of chips, the M5. But at the moment, they are super expensive. And come on, let's be honest here. I have a lot of compute power at home already.
Yeah, I understand you. Like when it comes to replacing something that you already have, it's a bit of a tough decision. But yeah, the new MacBooks. I'm still the M5. I'm still wondering what it's going to come out in the new Apple event whenever it comes out, because I'm hoping for, because we only had the normal M5. We don't have the Ultra, the Max, all of the other processes that we had with the M4. And I'm wondering if there's some architectural changes that are happening there just to support local models.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I really hope so. So, I know at least 3 people that they have the M4s. I bet you might have one as well. I don't know. And they run local LMMs quite nicely. That's fine. The M5, I'm exactly in the same boat you are. I hope the architectures improve, because at the moment it's exactly that. Sounds a bit like bleeding edge, so not ready for mass consumption yet. It's just, I guess it was a bit of marketing. Yeah, our new flagship stuff. Go run Adobe stuff and watch cat videos on the internet. You'll be fine.
Yeah, cat videos at 120 FPS.
Yes, there you go.
Cool. And as you were mentioning about cybersecurity and like the setups of having that segregated admin user, which I think it's a great idea. Unless, of course, if you have a Mac, and if you have Linux, that always comes by default. Like you need to escalate privileges. You don't have it, but in Windows, it's very normal that you get an administrative account. So I wanted to pick your brain. Like, what is one thing that you see in your because we all end up being the IT consultants of family and friends. What is the one thing that you think people don't understand about cybersecurity?
That our life is actually digital. I think, and this is my perception, and it's not a generational. If unfortunately outside tech heads like ourselves, people don't seem, and again, I might be being extremely unfair here, and for the watchers and listeners, I do apologize profusely about it, but this is how I see things. People don't take their digital life serious enough. Okay? So, and also doesn't help that the more you try to secure something, the more entropy you create, the more difficulties you create. So the more the end user will try to bypass those for convenience. So it's a fine act of balancing keeping someone safe or as safe as possible. There's no such thing as 100%. Not upsetting that person to a point that they can't do their job or they can't live their lives digitally. But this is what I see. So when I speak, for example, with my parents, they are from an older generation, so I'm not expecting them to understand, or even when I speak with younger generations, even younger, it's kind of light touch. Oh yeah, cool, snapshot is cool. Yeah, let me send a screenshot. I'm not thinking through the kind of information they share, etc. Right? And this is so. It's the lack of human firewall that's the biggest problem I still see nowadays. Okay. Fortunately, in corp world, people are learning under the light of the explosion of malicious actors left, right, and center, especially after 2022. Russia, Ukraine. It's just a lot of collateral damage. Lots of malicious activities as a service popped up in the internet, and I'm not even addressing the dark web yet.
Yeah.
So nowadays you open Telegram and with pretty much zero effort, you can find channels from how to hack your IPTV box to how to buy services to, I don't know, ransomware. Okay. Unfortunately, that exists and it's quite superficial. Although most of those are scams and are just to get your money, stuff like that. But the human firewall, I like to call it like this, and the mindset is the biggest problem. It's not the technology itself, is your perception. So in the corp world, it's very important what's happening. This was what I was about to say. It's the awareness initiatives. Okay. Be it simulation of phishing emails, phone calls, phishing, stuff like that, trying to not to punish people, but to educate people, to make them aware. And you can see, I know a few cases where it shifted from people were clueless and they were literally buying gift cards, etc., because they were being scammed, to think before click or think before call or think, okay? And then there's the extreme, and segueing to AI nowadays, becoming more and more difficult to help people perceive where the threat is, okay? From zero-click stuff, which you don't need to do anything, you don't need to open anything, just read the wrong message at the wrong time, and you are pawned, to that famous case of a bunch of AI executives convincing a CFO to wire I don't know how many millions of dollars and so there's a lot of it's a very fascinating world, a scary one. And I have to confess, we are at a stage which I remember back in 2019, 2020, you had kind of a big event around December time. I think everyone still remembers the SolarWinds stuff. It was crazy. So around December, give or take, there was a big thing in the technology world, rattle the cages and make everyone work extra time near Christmas time to make sure there were at least compensation to try to avoid worse things. But nowadays we move, we need to protect stuff, still perimeter protection, etc. Educate people, and it was like, the rhythm was normal, human bearable. Nowadays, just following an RSS feed or specialized news, etc., you are vaccinated. So it's very difficult to filter what's really important, what can hit my organization, what can hit my family, because the news is constant. And when I say the news, is not the mainstream news. I'm sure you realize that, right? It's specialized feeds, or there's a platform which I will not say if I'm using. I search for it on GitHub, and that hearsay. It's a nice viewpoint for what's happening the dark web. Okay. Now, to be honest, if anyone chooses to use that tool, a big warning, because searching might generate hits on stuff which is completely illegal in certain. Okay. No need to go into details, but if you decide to use a tool like that, you need to be, you need to know what you're doing. So that's why I might not use it. So yeah, that's again, I'm trying not to deep dive into many technicalities, just to, inspire or try to inspire people. And my main message: be aware, because your life is digital. If you fly to your home country, you will have to scan your passport in a digital system. If you, like me, are an immigrant, most likely your visa is on an online platform. So you need to protect your data. You need to be aware of what you're doing. If there's an update for your iPhone or Android or whatever, just do it, please. Yeah. Regularly reboot your machine. Allow your IT team to apply patches. Don't postpone those reboots. They are very important. This kind of things. And even so, I am a strong believer of it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Everyone will or will suffer some sort of attack someday. Okay? Be very careful where you put your data. Don't just put your phone number wherever. Use email screening. Get in touch with me. I can, over LinkedIn, I can show you to get emails to fence your actual real email, or to use, if you are a Gmail user, you can put emails to kind of subscribe different services. So if you're getting spam, you know exactly where they. There's a lot of small tricks that people can do to improve a bit their digital hygiene.
Yeah, and I think you touch on a really good point, which is just not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
When. Yeah.
And that is so true. And it doesn't matter how tech savvy you are, you're going to get hit. Like, I'm a guy that hobbies as a cybersecurity aficionado, and I always catch up all those phishing emails, all the things that come through the company to try to trick you. Until I got back from vacation, I have 60 emails to read, One of them is a colleague of mine giving me a link to a doc. I open up, I go to the doc. The next one is someone else giving me a link to the doc. I click and I just get the message, oh, this phishing campaign has expired.
There you go.
And I was like, that was the only reason I didn't get fished, because the campaign has expired while I was on vacation.
No, before all the way. So
Yeah.
and there you go.
You always get caught.
Well, it's like, for example, one of the things I try to educate people, normal people. For example, in the corporation we have content filtering based on categories, etc. And one of that is the sponsored links. So when you Google for something, the first then a huge percentage of them are actually scam links, fake links, call it whatever you want. So if I may suggest something for the normal user, when you search for something on Google or Bing, try to avoid the first links. If you read the small print saying sponsored, skip it. Read a bit further. I'm not saying the sponsored links are always, but there's a strong possibility we'll click on something which is not what you. Okay, and there's I think you can put on the episode now. So something called, it's a very nice exercise. It's called Digital Defense. I will send you the link once. Can actually send you now. So I'll just tell you, digital-defense.io. Okay, so it's very, you can self-assess your security kind of awareness and if you are that prone to be pwned or not. Obviously, there's stuff here which is high technology, but this serves not only the regular home user, but small companies. For example, small companies, many of them don't have an IT department, far less a team. This might help that person in that company, which is a bit more tech savvy, to, oh, nice idea. Oh, this, oh, we have this, oh, we don't. Okay. So it's an open source product. You can either consult it and use it from the URL I just said, and hopefully we'll put on the notes.
Yeah.
Or you can self-host it. It's on GitHub, etc. So it's a very nice platform to have. Okay.
That's a great share. And going a little bit back also to the content creation, because I still have some curiosities about your digital twin and the journey that you have been on content creation. Is what is the part that you enjoy the most about creating content?
The final result, obviously, I think everyone does it. No, I like the investigation, and then I like to distill the information as much as possible for the most diverse audience, so not just for techies. I do try, obviously, let's call things by the names. It's all a pleasure to see 10,000 visualizations and things like that. Yeah, that's great. Even if you don't have, I don't thrive on the likes, but obviously it kind of strokes your ego, right? And the sense of kind of realism. Judging from the comments, at least my message was someone. Okay, that is my biggest thing. And of course, now the geek side of things. You are on a train travel and you start writing the article on a plane travel, and then you get home and you go through, as I told you, and the machine is working, and you go away, you live your life. Yeah. And then you come back, you do a final revision. Yeah, I like it, or not quite. Let's refine this bit and that. Okay. So, and that the geekness out of it, it's kind of I love it.
That's a great one. Yeah, I think that's kind of the backbone of being an engineer at heart is that you do,
Yeah.
like solving that challenge and then seeing that piece of engineering work and producing exactly what you created to do. I think it's also a great. It's the same thing for me when I vibe code, and that's one of the points that I wanted to also
Yeah.
mention here is that also my journey with the CLI started this weekend. Like before, I
Oh,
was using coding agents all outside of the CLI, and I have to say, if you're using it outside of the CLI, you're using it wrong. Like
absolutely.
people tell you there is no right or wrong. No, there is a wrong. Believe me, it's like you 10x your performance just by using the CLI. You can do all other things. You can loop it. You can create code that interprets the output from the agents. It's an amazing thing. So if you're not
And
doing
I'll
it
tell you
yet,
another thing. If you max out your allowance, if you are using a free tier or one of the cheaper tiers, in most of the cases, it will warn you, yeah, you maxed out, so you can come back tomorrow at 9 p.m. your time and resume the work. Right. Try and do that with chat.
exactly. You can just and that's one of the things that I saw as well. It like gives you the information that it's not really the back off of an API telling you, oh, you're rate limited, but it tells you, yeah, come back again. And if you just take that piece of text and you say, okay, then I'm going to wait until 9 a.m. tomorrow, and then it'll just go, and you don't need to do anything. It's just working in the background. It's amazing.
And going back to Linux and systems administrations, and so, for example, obviously you need to know what's happening, right? So I wouldn't advise what I'm about to say to any junior or mid engineer without kind of a somewhat deep understanding of managing a Linux system, right? So imagine that you are using VS Code with your GitHub Copilot Enterprise. You can SSH to a server via VS Code. You get to the folder where your stuff is, and then you can do things instead of manually grab this log, etc. and find for this expression. No, you don't need to do that. You literally you pick up your model. You can use Claude model, OpenAI model. So depends on the policies of your company. And literally, you speak to the machine. You say, write me a markup file with a summary of 48 hours of sent email and highlight on the top the ones that failed to deliver and why. Human readable, please. And then you go away, you go to the coffee machine, brew coffee, come back, and you have a markup file with that summary. So tell me, how many hours did you save there? Or more complex stuff, like for example, I got this very old Docker stack, compose files with, I don't know, clear text credentials. There's still a lot of these things out there. So refactor Docker to something with M files and Git files and etc. And by the way, make it job done. And you talk to the machine, you administer the system on the. If you use stuff like personally at my home setup, what I use is Google's and because my family domain is actually a Google Workspace domain, so we have Gemini Pro, and I use Google Anti-Gravity, and the planning feature is just out of this world. Okay, it's just crazy. I do advise you to read the proposed changes because I've seen stuff which is like horrific, and there are stories out there like all files deleted and things like that. You need to be careful. And like you, vibe coding, yeah. Not long ago, I needed that. My wife was asking something to learn a bit of Spanish, etc. just vibe coded something, Podman on my home server, gated through Cloudflare, job done. She can access, she needs to authenticate with Google to have access to the app. Boom. It's there.
Yeah, it's so easy to just get like a container up and running with some web service to just help yourself and help your family. It's an amazing thing.
But come on, we have to be honest and tell people this. Don't overtrust. Please make sure you understand
Yes.
a huge chunk of what is in front of you, okay?
Yeah. And if you want to YOLO it, make sure that you are in a sandbox environment.
Yes, definitely. So on this later example I mentioned, instead of manually typing commands on a Linux, actually speak to it naturally. There's no YOLO at all. Everything is gated. Everything is, you need to confirm first with me. Yeah. And obviously scripting something. Coding, if I compare stuff a year ago to stuff that is written by AIs today, it's night and day different already. Okay. So we moved from simple guessing completions to actually full pieces of stuff and with a good quality. If we are talking about simple things like building a small app, etc. But it's that for me the most important thing is you need to be aware of what you're saying. So and it's very easy. I've seen, fortunately not in the team I'm managing, but and I heard of guys, people just blindly trust stuff and they start to believe that they actually have the knowledge that they don't, right? And that's when things start to go wrong. For example, vibe code me a web application to figure out when the Chinese cargo ships are passing through so I can watch them with binoculars, things like this. Most likely we'll use a Docker image, and I've seen a lot of Alpine Linux, but versions that shouldn't be there anymore. Flask, most likely versions that are outdated in some. Well, I'm saying most likely, not most likely. In some case, they need to know what's being built.
Yeah.
There are some tools, especially for the containerized world. I use a lot a tool called Dockhand. I throw it on the servers. I convert the Docker callout for that service as a command for the engineers to do, and you can literally scan the Docker images that needs to be patched or not. So it's quite good for standalone setup. So there's a myriad of go on all night speaking of stuff. And I'm trying to be as generalistic as possible. So I don't know if it is what you wanted or not, but
it's some good points for the audience out there. I think it's important for everyone to be aware of those things. Like vibe coding it's a great tool, but if you don't know what you are doing, it could be and it's not just us making fun of whoever goes and posts a link to, hey, check out my application at localhost port 3000. Like, those are the funny memes, but yes, like if you're trying to hit certain APIs and get some information or put a service in your home lab that contains Docker images that are outdated, filled with security vulnerabilities, or versions of Flask or FastAPI or whatever that are filled with security vulnerabilities, that's a recipe for a mistake. Because one of the things that CiberJohn was just saying, that there are things that are zero click. You don't need to do anything, and you're already pwned.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a crazy world. A bit of a confession. There was a period I was kind of feeling overwhelmed with everything that is going on. And then you start to kind of dehumanize, a bit like the doctor, right? So you have that feeling that, yeah, the doctor is, their bedside manners are not the best. Well, they are the best professionals out there, but in our case, technology, the information is so much, the volume is, it's impossible to digest everything. So sometimes you just sit in your corner, like paying attention to stuff, but your face is telling a different story, if that makes sense. But then you get out of it, and it's very important, especially for, younger people in the audience or people starting now. Do fence your work-life balance as much as you can. Okay. I raised my hand first. I'm still paying health-wise a huge bill because I was not like that. Okay. I was working daytime. I was getting on. I was doing double shifts and things like that. And my family suffered a bit. So I don't mind saying this in this forum, but there was a period that it was not easy for my wife, especially when my youngest was born, because I was mad around work. And one thing is for sure, you need to be professional. You need to, be proud of what you do. You need to try to be the best at what you do, but you need to be your best friend at all times. Okay, so take a rest every now and then, do some exercise, take care of your family, because if you get a problem, if you die or something like that, guess what? They will replace you, not the next day, in a week or so. So we are not irreplaceable. That's my one of another message. And I'm sorry to use your platform. I think it's important. And keeping that balance gives you a sharpness of mind that improves immensely your performance as well.
And I think that's a beautiful message for us to end this podcast. I heard this one time from a friend, or from maybe a post that I read online. I don't know, like, you never know where these things come from, but it was, in 10 years' time, the only people that will remember that you worked overtime is your wife and your children. So guys, take that in consideration when you're going to just slave out for doing something.
Yes.
Sometimes it's needed, and we all know when incidents happened, but incidents don't happen every single day. And if they do, something is wrong. You need to stop firefighting.
Yeah, you need to step back, get some perspective, and is this pattern occurring, and fix the root cause. Yeah, you're right there.
Exactly. But João, thank you so much for coming to the show. But before I let you go, if people want to find you and know more about you and your amazing digital twin with fights between Star Trek and Star Wars, what is the best way for them to do so?
I think LinkedIn it's the platform to go. Yeah. So that's the one with most expression. That's the one I'm putting my money on, so to say. Yeah, I'm easygoing. Sometimes I might not be as fast responsive as people would like over chat, but again, I do have a daytime job and it takes a lot of my time, even with yourself, to you. Oh, but I always reply to everyone, even those people that are trying to sell you service.
Mostly I now reply to them with an image of a water dispenser just saying no.
Yeah. I was saying that I don't mind sharing my links, the links to my main profiles, but definitely the biggest one is LinkedIn. So that's the best way to find me nowadays.
Awesome. And I'll make sure to get all those links from you and add them to the show notes. So for the people that are listening, either on YouTube or Spotify or any of the platforms that this ends up being there, the links will be down in that amazing box that has all the text. Again, João, thank you so much for coming to the podcast. Obrigado for this amazing episode.
It was an honor, and by the way, hats off to you. You are building a project, and wherever I can, I'll help you promoting stuff as well. So
Thank you so much.
send them on. No problem. I mean it.
Awesome.
Okay.
And for everyone that may still be listening to another episode of Coffee and Bytes, remember, fishing stays at the lake, not in your email box. And see you again for another episode. Bye, everyone.
Cup after cup, stories unfold. Real people, real past, pure gold. From debug nights to breakthrough days, we laughed, we learned in so many ways. Coffee and Bytes, stories come alive. Humans behind the screen, we thrive. Inspiring journeys, no fluff, just fire. Thanks for sharing, taking